Charisma is a talent that is not earned, and it is not obtained because someone is better than others. It is a gift that God grants so that the receiver can put himself at the service of the entire community, for the good of all, because this man, chosen by God, is able to integrate the missing qualities of his followers and to make their hidden talents flourish. This is the great power that made Elvis Presley, American singer and songwriter, considered one of the greatest artists in history, eternal. His stage presence and the mimicry with which he accompanied his performances have exerted considerable influence on American and global pop culture. Worshipped and revered by his fans, Elvis' fame has risen even and especially after his death. Fan clubs, gifts, gadgets, and all the merchandising related to his figure are a real business, as well as the so-called Elvis impersonators, his imitators. Among the most famous, Johnny Lee Hara, who thanks to the extraordinary physical resemblance and the artistic quality of his performances has achieved international fame. Many biographical films about Presley have been realized. For example, Elvis, the made-for-television film by John Carpenter that tells the story and career of Elvis until 1970, stopping before the last years of his life. The eccentric and particular Bubba Ho-Tep, in which Presley is portrayed as an old and abandoned man in a rest home, far from planetary success and false friendships and appearances. While Elvis and Nixon narrates of the meeting that really happened in 1970 between Elvis and the then President of the United States, Richard Nixon. In 2022, a new film will be released. It too will tell the life of the king and will be directed by Baz Luhrmann and starring Austin Butler and Tom Hanks. It will be a musical, and therefore it may be similar to the film directed by Carpenter. Filming has been completed, and we can't wait to see how Luhrmann, who is a master in portraying iconic characters, will be able to put on the screen one of the most important and enigmatic figures of the 20th century. However, in this video we will not focus on Elvis' musical activity, which, thanks to his artistic versatility, ranged from rock and roll to great classics, and not even on his film career, but on Elvis as a worldwide phenomenon and its origins, things that led people to crown him the king of rock and roll. Before going on with the video, click the like button and subscribe to the channel. If you want to stay up to date with our releases, click the notification bell. Thank you, and let's get started. Elvis Presley was born in Tupelo in the state of Mississippi in 1935 into a poor family. His birth was very special because he survived his twin brother, Jesse Garon Presley, who died as soon as he was born. Obviously, this fact shocked his mother, who became even more protective of her surviving son, and with whom Elvis had a very special and intimate relationship. In fact, he was convinced that part of the inner strength he possessed derived from the fact that the one of his brother had flowed into him. The Presley family at the time lived in a modest house near a neighborhood inhabited by the African American community. In Tupelo, Elvis began to be influenced by different musical genres. From gospel, the kind of music he listened to when his family went to church, to country music, which was listened to by most of the white American population, up to blues, which was aimed at the inhabitants of the aforementioned ghetto. In particular, Elvis had a very close relationship with gospel music. Gospel was born as a genre of work songs. Workers, snatched from their lands, were deprived of the dignity of being men. They were considered just like tools, and they managed to endure their exhausting job thanks to music and singing. Singing helped them to keep the rhythm. Going on time allowed them to better endure fatigue, avoiding accidents. The lyrics, full of suffering and joy of gospel music, resonated within Elvis, who lived in a difficult economic and social situation, because they narrated his own difficulties and suffering. Later in his career, when he was alone or going through a dark period, these songs, accompanied by his inseparable guitar or the piano, transported him into a divine place where he was able to forget his own problems for the duration of the song. That was possible because music is an immediate form of art. The words get into your head. As soon as you listen to them, you begin to understand what they mean, what story they hide. The notes convey a rhythm, an emotion, the key to interpret the lyrics one is listening to. During his childhood, Elvis learned that music has no color, and later, when he was already an adolescent and after moving to Memphis with his family, he chose to be part of both the black and the white community. His interests range from the blues of B.B. King to the white gospel of the Blackwood Brothers. At the time, US radio stations were divided into two categories, one broadcasting only music performed by white musicians, and the other, the one realized by black artists. Elvis spent his days listening to both, thus absorbing the influences of both white and black artists. Unlike previous decades, in which the Great Depression and World War II had justified frugality and rationing, American consumers in the 1950s were experiencing an unexpected phenomenon. Advertisers continuously bombarded the public, a new mass market, with products that were newer, faster, and better. Televisions were increasingly entering the homes of Americans, and along with that, new models to aspire to. And people felt they had the right to all this. Striving to resume a normal life, the American population wished to forget the war and look to the present and to their bright future. But the American youth culture was increasingly seeking a model that rebelled against the rules imposed by adults. In cinema, the person that embodied the will to break with the past was James Dean, who in just 3 films became a symbol of rebellion against a false and hypocritical society that crushes people, a kind of society that was already unbearable. From a musical perspective, a very shy and well-mannered young man who worked as a truck driver for a company that dealt with electrical installations began to take his first steps towards becoming a singer. During his first performance in a park in Memphis, Elvis took the stage and began to sing. The words came out of him without difficulty. The audience, made for the most part by women, responded enthusiastically, sometimes almost in a frenzy. At the end of the concert, he asked his manager why people were going so crazy. The manager told him that in his opinion that was because of the movement of his right leg. From that moment, everything changed. That kind of movement, that mimic, that style became iconic and sanctioned the beginning of the legend of the king of rock and roll. Young people had found a devoted representative who would fight for them against a system considered oppressive and authoritarian. Musicians, a white songwriter who could make famous worldwide the African-American musical culture that was suffering from racial segregation due to Jim Crow laws. Over the years, the myth of Elvis never faded because the image he created was stronger than time. Surely, his manager, Colonel Tom Parker, contributed to this success. The man had great managerial skills, but over time he destroyed the artistic career of the king. Being an illegal immigrant, he could not accompany Elvis abroad and therefore prevented him from performing concerts in Europe, which was one of the great desires of the artist. In addition, to prevent him from choosing another manager and to control even more his life, he surrounded him with friends and acquaintances, who were called the Memphis Mafia, who protected Elvis from any external danger, but on the other hand, prevented him from building new friendships and healthy relationships. The lack of artistic and social autonomy, together with an unrestrained concert activity, led Elvis to go through moments of serious depression, looking for relief to the suffering in psychotropic drugs, which led to his death a few years later. Probably, the reason why Elvis became a worldwide phenomenon is to be found in the fact that, by taking the stage, he created a religious experience. Inspired by the gospel preachers of his childhood, where the leader would sing a verse and the audience would respond, Elvis's performance totally merged with the desires and emotions of the audience. Dance moves, uninhibited gestures, and a cheeky attitude filled the room with unbridled, uncontrollable energy. The impact was sometimes so strong that, after the concert was over, he had to run away in a hurry to escape the violent and excited assaults of women who wanted to get a memento of him. The self-confidence that he exuded during all his concerts contrasted with a very sensitive personality, full of existential doubts. All this only increased the fascination and ambiguity around the figure of Elvis, who constantly searched in books dealing with spirituality a reason behind his life's purpose. Until the end of his days, destroyed by diseases and psychotropic drugs, he never abandoned his public because he found inner peace only in that connection, which the dollars of Colonel Parker and the excessive attention of the Memphis Mafia could not give him. In his 24 years career, he published 61 records, becoming the first musician to sell more than 1 billion records worldwide. After his death, Presley became a deity, ultimately and forever taking the name The King. Thanks for watching. What do you think about Elvis Presley? Are you interested in his figure and in next year's biopic by Baz Luhrmann? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe and share it with your friends. See you in the next video. Ciao a tutti.